And what is up, guys? Welcome to another surprise edition of Jayhouse Podcast Radio. Wasn't expecting to do a second one tonight, but I had to because I've been waiting on this for at least a week. I've been waiting on this because Evan, Evan has now seen the lowest of the lows now. So shout out to everyone on X, YouTube, Twitch. Shout out to you guys for tuning in. Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe. And Evan, now I knew it was gonna be something with you because when Tessa watched it with me, she was pissed. She was ready to turn the movie off. And she never has that reaction to movies like that. Never. She said it was some bull. Some straight bull. So I knew I'm like, "Oh god, I don't even think Evan's gonna make it through that one. I don't even know if he's gonna make it." But you said you were gonna make it through. You said you were gonna watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm gonna let you have the floor, and then I'll give my thoughts. So Evan, with Joker Folie à Deux, what exactly did you see? Because as of right now, it sits at a 32% on Rotten Tomatoes from both the audience and the critics. 32 on both sides. And you know I don't really trust Rotten Tomatoes like that. But when the numbers look like that, something else is going on. So talk to me, bro. How are you alive? How are you feeling? Whoa.
Well, I've actually, well, boy, allow me to gather my thoughts before I get into this one. Um, I'm actually in a fantastic mood. Had a great day, but uh, this movie, well, I'm mostly in a great mood because the Green Bay Packers won today. Go Pack,
Okay,
go!
yeah. Yeah. That
Yep.
that's something to cheer for.
And by the way, my voice is a little bit hoarse tonight. If you can't tell, I did an awful lot of screaming earlier at the TV.
Yeah.
So tonight, if anybody's tuning in to hear me go on a rant similar to Eric's three blank in year speech from a while back, that's not going to happen. Namely, because I now live in an apartment, so that's why my camera's not on tonight. If anyone's wondering, I'm in a different location. I don't have it set up yet, but once I get my spot set up, I have my camera back on.
Yeah.
Now on to the movie. What do I think I saw? I saw a director who put out what might be the laziest attempt at making a movie I've ever seen. That was pathetic. What I just watched, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it a 0 if I could. If I could give this movie a 0, I would give this movie a 0. This is, I think I told you earlier that after watching this movie, I may have to go back and watch 2016 Suicide Squad to see if, um, Joker 2 was now the new worst DC movie ever made. I don't have to watch 2016 Suicide Squad. Joker 2 is the worst DC movie I've ever seen. That is the absolute sorriest excuse of anything I've ever seen labeled DC called a movie. That was all time pathetic, all time bad. From beginning to end, Eric. Okay, let's start at the beginning. Okay, let's walk through this movie because, Eric, let me tell you something. You and I don't agree on everything.
No.
All right. But with Batman v Superman, and I use that example because that's been our most hotly debated movie of all time on this show.
Right.
However, I will give you this, and I don't know if I've ever given you this compliment before. You have done a phenomenal job over the years of stating your case as to why you like the movie. And while I don't agree with you on everything that you say, I'm at least able to be like, okay, well, I see where he's coming from. You've got your freaking work cut out for you tonight if you think you saw anything positive about this piece of garbage. You've got your work cut out for you. This, Eric, there is no defense of this. This was horrible. I don't want to hear anything about, oh, well, we're allowed to explore. No, not like this. You can explore. Not like this. Okay? I mean, first of all, okay, in the first 20 minutes of the movie, he meets Harley Quinn. Okay, that's an important scene, right? And
Yeah.
immediately they fall in love. Cool, whatever. From the 20-minute mark all the way until probably 40 minutes left in the movie, when Joker decides to represent himself, what you have is like an hour and a half of nothing in between. Absolutely nothing. Except undoing the first movie, none of it ever happened. Like, or not that none of it ever happened, but that just all of it was wrong. You know, his mom didn't really actually think he was funny, all this other stupid stuff.
Right.
And then he decides to represent himself at the end, and then it gets a little bit more interesting at that point. But then he says, "Oh wait, but there is no Joker. I'm not really the Joker." And I'm thinking, well, I'm glad you can finally admit it, Joaquin, because I agree with you. You're not the Joker. You're not. You're a horrible Joker. You are the worst Joker in the history of cinema. Yes, Eric, I prefer Jared Leto to Joaquin Phoenix. I said it.
What?
Give me the 2016 Marilyn Man.
What?
Give me the 2016 Marilyn Manson looking clone, Jared Leto, over this Joker 2 abomination.
What did
This
he
was,
say?
Eric, this was horrific. And you know it.
Wow.
I will hear nothing. There is no defense of this. This was horrible. This was so bad. This wasn't Joker. There was nothing Joker about this. What? He wears makeup and he's crazy? That's not all Joker is. There's a lot more to him than that. There's an intimidation factor there. He's the clown prince of crime. He's the greatest comic book villain to have ever lived. This was an insult to him. This was an absolute slap in the face to a beloved character. You look at every single Joker we've ever had. You know, Jack Nicholson, Cesar Romero, Heath Ledger, Cameron. I can never remember how to say his last name,
Moynihan,
but
I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the kid from Gotham. I'm missing somebody. Who did I say? Caesar.
Cesar
Caesar.
Romero, Heath Ledger,
Yeah,
Jack Nicholson,
yeah,
Cameron
and
Moynihan,
and even Jared Leto to a lesser
Jared,
degree.
Mark
to a
Hamill.
to a much lesser degree than the aforementioned live action Jokers, had some level of intimidation, some level of fear about them. There is nothing scary about Joaquin Phoenix other than how horribly written this movie was. They absolutely wasted a phenomenal talent in Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga. This film did not change my opinion about Joaquin or Lady Gaga as actors by any means. However, this movie did prove that Todd Phillips can't make a sequel. This man caught lightning in a bottle with Joker 1 and created a horrible sequel. And I really don't have much else to say other than this movie sucked. I am shocked that anybody at DC let this piece of garbage out and thought it would work.
Yeah.
This movie abandoned. Oh, and then by the way, folks, spoiler alert: at the end, he gets stabbed and killed randomly by an inmate. So this whole Elseworld thing meant nothing. It was a poorly written fan fiction. This is what we just watched. DC spent all this money to make a Joker fan fiction. But I will agree with Joaquin Phoenix with what he said at the end. He is not the Joker. And that is my take on this movie. I want to forget that I ever saw it. I am, there's some movies that are so bad they're good. This movie was just painful. I mean, I've been a Joker fan my entire life, and I have seen so many different interpretations of him from all the different comic book writers who have written on him, from Alan Moore. There's so many others. And then, Tim Burton's version, Nolan's version, even to a lesser degree, in my opinion, Snyder's version. All were better than this. There is no defense for this. This, I am really intrigued, and I'm going to keep my mouth shut and let you present your case, Eric. But and I know you're big on creator vision. I know that's your whole thing. But Eric, this movie sucked. This movie sucked. You cannot sit there with a straight face and give this movie anything higher than a 4 out of 10. There is no free. You lose credibility as a podcast host if you come on here and try and say that there was anything redeemable about this movie. You
Oh
lose
god.
credibility on this.
Oh god.
Floor
Oh
is
man.
yours.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear from you. That's exactly what I thought that I would hear. And I really hate that you had to go through that. Um, but to your dismay, I'm going to have to, along the lines of that, agree with you because while I am about creator vision, I am about creator vision in the context as it pertains to making sure you do that character to the utmost ability that you can, bringing out the most extreme, bringing out the most popular aspects, whatever it is. Henceforth, why I am a fan of Zack's Batman brutality. Henceforth, why I'm a fan of Henry Cavill's Superman, or any other case that you may state, or anyone that I've stated in the past. I am a fan of creator vision because you can do these things, but you have to do it within the confines of what you've been, of the canon that you've been given, you know? So when we when we started with Joker in 2019 or 2021, I'm sorry, it was such a phenomenal movie because I was like, okay, we've seen all these different origins of Joker. We've seen Killing Joke. We've seen the failed comedian. We've seen Under the Red Hood. We've had so many different stories. We've had even that Knight Lucas pointed out earlier. There are stories about Joker in the comics where someone else was Joker for 1 second and then they died, and then that inspired another crazy Joker to come about, which is fine. But when it comes to this, once in every canon story we've seen, once Joker crosses that threshold, there's not really a going back. You know what I'm saying? There's not really a, oh, I was just playing. No, that's never been the Joker. That's not who the Joker is. The Joker is not one who is going to be like, yeah, I think I'll go back to being sane for a while, just because I like it. That's never been Joker. And even Batman's, in all his wisdom, wouldn't be stupid enough to believe that Joker would ever just give up his psychotic lifestyle to live a normal life, not the most murderous, homicidal maniac to ever exist within the medium that is comics. So there's no going back on that threshold. And once, it's such an iconic scene in the first Joker where he, when I told you this before, he recognizes that he's not alone. He recognizes that I am heard and that I'm not the only one who feels like I'm crazy or downtrodden and beat down on. And now it's time for the get back. Now it's time to burn this whole city down. I'm not the only one who feels that. As he's crying, he's putting the Joker smile on his face. Boom. That is the birth of the Joker. Once you cross that line, there's no taking it back. He is the Joker. What Folia Do just did, like you said, was basically walk it all back and not only remain stagnant in the way it told the story, but it didn't go anywhere for about half an hour, like you, or hour and a half, like you said. Nothing happens, nothing progresses. Me and Tess were watching it. She's like, "Is anything gonna happen?" Is like, what's going on here? It's just singing and singing and singing and singing and singing.
That's what I'm saying, bro. It's like it's almost like they didn't know what they wanted to do. Cause you remember, bro, that there was no planned sequel for this movie when it was announced. This was supposed to be a standalone.
Yeah, and and that would have been fine if it was a standalone. I would have been perfectly fine with that. But if you're going to do a sequel, and I pointed this out earlier, I said this, we can look at all the most iconic sequels of all time. We can look at Empire Strikes Back to A New Hope. We can look at Aliens to the first Alien. We can look at Terminator 1 and 2. We can look at whatever follow up, or even if you want to look at trilogies, you can look at the Lord of the Rings trilogy. You can look at the prequel trilogy. You can look at whatever trilogy you want, any successful trilogy that you want, and you will know that that second chapter, a successful second chapter, always adds more and builds upon what the first one did. It never retracts, it never goes back. It always continues to add and expand. And there's so many great franchises that have done that. And I've never seen a movie since now I disagree with you when you said this because we talked about it. You said that that to an extent that the first Joker was the BVS of DC of that was the Last Jedi. I'm sorry, the Last Jedi of of the DC universe. And I disagreed because up until that point, I I thought maybe to an extent that that was BVS, but I was wrong because unlike this film, BVS actually has some warrants in it on the good and on the things that people think are not so good that warrant people to keep revisiting it and talking about those things. But The Last Jedi does not have that. The Last Jedi made consequential choices that
Wait,
not only
hold
were
on a second. You're bringing up a point that I made about TLJ. Wait, say it again.
no, hold on. Let me run it back. You said that Joker, the first Joker, was the Last Jedi of DC. And I understood why you would say that, but I disagreed with it at the time until I saw Folia Do, because I know BVS is controversial in some aspects and polarizing, but there are a lot of things that about that film that you can like and some things that you can't that you don't like, which is fine. But when you get to a film like Folia Do is unequivocally the TLJ of DC because TLJ made choices in its story that you cannot take back. That once you do those things, not only do you ruin that story, you ruin the hype and the basically the future of anything that that franchise is going to do moving forward. Henceforth, that is what Folia Do did to Joker. That movie. I had hopes of this becoming a trilogy. I'm like, "Oh, you remember when I said that?" I said, "Man, we might be well on our way to the first villain trilogy in cinematic history, and it might be great. There's a possibility." I didn't say it absolutely would be, but it was a possibility, and I was excited about that. That is done now. That's done. That's in the grave. Todd Phillips said he's not coming back to do it, and with that, what reason does Joaquin have, especially after that ending? So, with that being said, bro, this film is the Last Jedi of DC movies. It left me feeling, like, okay, yeah, I understand why you did that, but then for everything that it does in one direction, it goes right back and it retracts it, and then you're just left with like nothing. If you ask me what my rating is on this film, I don't have one. I can't even rate this. I don't even know how you rate this. Tessa says what, one or two? A one or a two? That's fair. She gives it like a one or a two. Me,
She's
it
being
gave me.
generous.
She's being but me, this film didn't give me anything. It gave me nothing. I understood the first Joker. I understood what he went through, and I sympathized with him, and my heart hurt for him for a second. But once he crossed that line into being Joker, there's no more sympathy. Okay, now you're just downright evil, and now you're terrorizing people because of what was done to you. That's the line that Joker draws right there. He never goes back on that. This film starts by, first of all, the fact that Joker is even having to go to a courtroom, the fact that the case even went to trial. Like, this is Joker here. Joker doesn't have to explain anything to anybody, and he never does. Whether he's wrong, well, he's always in the wrong, of course, but he doesn't explain that. He wouldn't even waste the time. He probably would have just gassed out the courtroom on the first day with some sick joke. You know what I'm saying? In typical Joker fashion. That's not what this Joker does, though. That's not what Todd Phillips spends his time doing. He breaks it off into a musical, and a song after song of him dreaming about being free, and then before you know it, we're in this part of the film where he's having an identity crisis, and he's not sure whether it's just him, like, wanting revenge and doing stuff on purpose and wanting attention, or if it's because he actually has a split personality disorder. And first of all, if you have to ask if you have a split personality disorder, you don't have one. So he doesn't have one, and he tries to keep on justifying what he's doing. And the part that pissed me off about this movie is that Joker, where it lost me at, is that Joker is such a unhinged character that you can do almost anything to him, and he will not come off that mountain because you can't threaten him. What did Heath Ledger tell Christian Bale's Batman? You
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 have
got
nothing to threaten me with,
you
nothing to
got
do with all your strength.
nothing to do with all your strength. What does Joaquin Phoenix's Joker do? The guards, and I'm just saying what happened. This is real. This is probably what turned a lot of people off to the movie. Joker was sexually assaulted. Arthur Fleck was sexually assaulted in a psychiatric ward. He got brutalized and beaten, and they sodomized him with police batons and whatever it is. Now, people are probably saying, no, they didn't. They didn't do that. Bro, it's insinuated that that's what they did. They didn't take him to the bathroom for no reason, just because they wanted to have ice cream with him. They brutalized him, they beat him, and they sexually assaulted Arthur Fleck. Then the next shot cuts to him literally being dragged with his underwear showing while his underwear are on. If that doesn't tell you what they did to that man, I don't know what to tell you. And after that, all of a sudden, he doesn't want to be Joker anymore. He doesn't want to be Joker anymore. He quits. He says, I can't do it anymore. He's silent in court. He's not talking that noise now. And he quits. He says there is no Joker. There is none of that. And he admits to being wrong. And that was where I knew. I was like, yeah, this is not gonna, it just didn't give me anything. I'm like, wow, all that for nothing. And that it was quite, I'm like, the real Joker would have, if they were doing any other version of Joker, that Joker would have probably laughed about it the whole time, and he would have infuriated the guards furthermore by talking about how they didn't do a good enough job. That's
And
what,
probably would have killed the judge at some point.
and probably would have killed the judge. He would have went back to the psychiatric ward and killed all those people, and then freed all of the people that were imprisoned in the psychiatric ward. But that's not what we're dealing with here. We're, even in this Elseworlds version, we're not dealing with that kind of intimidated Joker. I don't even know what this is. Now,
Garbage.
I will say this: as a musical, as a musical, if this were any other film, then it would be accepted. It would be okay. If it were, because I'm like, okay, as a musical production, it wasn't that bad. It was actually pretty cool. As a DC movie, this was not it. As a DC movie, this was not. It wasn't it. And again, I'm stumped on it because maybe I have to watch it. I can't give this film a rating. I have no idea what to even give the movie.
Yeah,
After,
I
like,
have
no,
no intention to watch it again. I saw it one time. That's all I ever need to see it.
Yeah, I figure that. Normally after a movie I can automatically give it a rating, and then I'll watch it again and again, and maybe it might go up a point or down a point or 2 or whatever the case, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it depends, but this film is not people have a expectation of Joker, and the reason why the first one was met with so much beloved acclaim is because it's always interesting to understand how someone could become Joker or a version of Joker. That's always gonna sell. That's always gonna be an interesting story, especially if you execute it right, no matter if it's Elseworlds or if it's the comics or if it's him falling into a vat of acid, it doesn't matter. People are always gonna be interested to see how Joker becomes the Joker, especially because he's so enigmatic and so mysterious. But when you do something like this and you don't build on something so iconic that you did, what are you doing? You should have just left it alone. And so, man, I now look, this will probably just be, I think, in the retrospective, in the retrospective scheme of things, I don't think that this movie hurts Warner Brothers right now because they're really hot with the Reeves verse, and the Reeves verse is carrying DC on its back right now. The Batman is getting more love than it ever has before. The Penguin is the best DC TV show and some of the best DC content ever put out. You know what I'm saying? And so there's so much positivity and so much love going on around that about how much of a great job they've done with that. That okay, I don't think that this is there people are gonna forget about this and it'll be one of those misses for DC. But um I still think that DC has a bright future ahead of them. I think that they squandered an opportunity here because I remember saying, I'm like, okay, if you're gonna do this whole thing with all these villains, you could if you wanna do a thing where you're focusing on a realism perspective on these villains, why not apply it to all of Batman's gallery? Because people love Bane, people love Penguin, people love Joker, people love Two Face. You know what I'm saying? And they had Harvey Dent in there. They had him in there. I'm like, that was pretty cool. But I'm like, it's not gonna go anywhere. Where's it gonna go? Where are you building it to? You already think
Well, at the end of the film, the person that stabbed him carved a smile into his face and
into his
laughed.
face. Yes.
And what did I tell you would have been the absolute dumbest thing they could have done through these first two movies? Over and over again.
Yeah.
It's exactly what they freaking did. I
Yeah.
called it from the beginning. I
Yeah.
told people after the first freaking movie, that's not the Joker. And I'm sorry to interject, but very briefly, you said
No, I'm done.
something.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm
You
done.
said something earlier, and I'm going to stand on business about it because I've got the text up that I sent you about the first film being the TLJ of DC. And I'm going to stand on business about it because I'm going to read what I said to you because I was 100% right. My exact quote was, I don't care what the box office numbers were. That film was the TLJ of DC film. Listen to what I say here. It's a phenomenally shot film with great performances, but it comes at the expense of completely undoing everything you've ever known about a beloved character. That is 100% on the money. A beloved character is completely undone. That was the whole point of this first Joker movie. What if we take Joker and do a character deconstruction? I.e., let's undo him. Undo everything you've ever known. Oh, he falls in a vat of acid. No, not really. That's undone. Oh, he actually does turn completely insane. No, wait a minute. Not quite. Well, that's in the second movie. But still, even in the first movie, they undid everything you knew about Joker. Oh, he fights Batman. That's a huge part of Joker. Well, no, Bruce Wayne's only 8 years old. He can't really do that yet. So everything we know about Joker was flipped on its head. This was something totally different that absolutely had no resemblance to anything in the comic books, in the same way that Mark Hamill's Luke Skywalker in Episode 8 bared almost no resemblance to the Luke Skywalker that we saw in Episode 6. But I will say this: Luke Skywalker's Episode 8 is more faithful to George Lucas's vision than what Todd Phillips' Joker was to the comic books. And I'm going to stand on that.
I get that, and I won't necessarily agree. I'll agree with your second point for sure. That much I can say now with Joker Folly do, but I will still disagree on that first part because I think that it we can make that same case for TFA. I would much rather compare TFA to the first Joker than I would TLJ to the first one because true enough, true enough, it is a character study. True enough, it is a deconstruction. And with deconstruction, if you're doing a deconstruction, that means that you have to turn around and build that character up back bigger, back stronger than you ever did before. They did it with James Bond, they did it with Batman, they did it with a lot of other iconic characters, but those directors were careful to make sure that in that second and that third installment or however many stories they told, they made sure to bring that character back to its rightful place, bigger and better after taking them on this detour. And so with Joker, with the first one, he lives in Gotham. Gotham's a sewer hole. I think that there are a lot of elements that were in name only, like you say, yeah, they're in name only to DC. But at the same time, if it's a deconstruction and you want to put Joker in this place where things are different or he has a disorder that he's dealing with, okay, I can deal with that. As long as you are headed towards a place that brings us to him being Joker, then that's fine. Now, if we're talking about the first Joker doing all this other stuff, and then at the end we don't get him snapping, and we don't get him killing Murray and going off, if that whole ending never happens, then I would agree with you. I'm like, yeah, this is not Joker because he's shown nothing. He's shown no sort of journey to darkness or no sort of change to even coming close to the Joker. Then I would understand that. But he did, and that's why the first film was so classic. That's why the first film got the accolades that it did. I'm not talking about the box office. I'm just talking about whether it's good.
Well, no, it was a good movie, but it was I would compare the first film to the rock band Nirvana. I think that would be because Nirvana, when they came out, they blew up because there was nobody else like them. And at the same time, there was another kid on the block who was dominating, i.e., when Nirvana showed up, hair metal ruled the world. When Joker showed up, the MCU and that fast paced style superhero films ruled the world.
Yeah,
And Nirvana got on top for a while. Joker was on top for a while. However, just like with grunge music as a whole, I think people got tired of Joaquin Phoenix's Joker pretty quickly. And I say that because the opening weekend for this movie was not good. It was horrific. So
absolutely not. No,
so you would think that as big of a hit as the first film was, even though the reviews were bad, people would think, well, okay, yeah, but the first film was good, and you would think this movie would have a bigger fan base, but they didn't show up.
no,
So,
because they saw the film and they saw what it did to the first one. So why would they? What are the numbers? A 90% drop. I heard in the box office. 90%.
hmm
That's pretty steep. Now, I think we talked about what BVS did, what, a 70, 80, whatever, something percent drop, and it still managed to make what, almost 872, but
hmm
but Joker didn't even come close to that, and that was on its second week, a 90% drop. That's why I made the video beforehand, before I even did the review. I was asking, like, "What's wrong? Why are people not seeing why are people what's the problem?" And then I'm like, "Yep." I watched it myself, and I'm like, "It all depends on what you do with that second story." Now, if Todd now we're getting into the what ifs, because what's happened has happened, and it can't be changed. Now, if Todd woulda came out the gate with this movie, and it wasn't a musical, and it was about, uh, Arthur trying to put it behind him and trying to get better, and but Harley comes in and she just brings out the worst in him, and she's a psychiatrist, and they fall in love, and it just brings out oh, and he keeps going darker and deeper into this path, to the point where he can't go back, and he's fully fledged Joker. They terrorize the city. They say, F the Waynes, and do all this, and just start burning down the city and whatever, and we get a whole movie of just that. Then I think we're in a different story. I think we're in a different situation, because now you're even though the origin is different, you're sticking to the lines of somewhat of what Joker is all about in the comics. You're sticking to some guideline or some plot thread, at least. Folia Do sticks to no plot thread from any Joker storyline. From It doesn't take inspiration from anything, from nothing. You could look at the Dark Knight Rises, and even though it's not a page for page adaptation of Nightfall, uh, you would know that Nolan took inspirational elements, because you can see those elements all throughout the movie.
Same with Killing Joke in The Dark Knight.
Same with Killing Joke in The Dark Knight. So, I mean, it is what it is. I'm I'm still This is the first movie that I've never been able to give a rating to, because I don't know what to give it. It's the
You're
first
too
movie
nice to give it a 1 out of 10.
I can't give you I can't give a rating on a movie that doesn't give me anything to work with. You gotta give me something. At least TLJ gives me something to work with, you know? At
Yeah, and
least
you
it
gave it
gives
a dang, what was it, a 7 out of 10?
I gave it a 7 out of 10, and then it went down to a 6 out of 10, because at first, when I had it at a 7.10, I was like, "Okay, I understand why Luke did what he did, and I can understand some of the reasonings." It dropped to a 6 because none of Rey's training was paid off, and then secondly, Luke's reasons never justified the means of why he quit. So, I could deal with everything else in the movie. I could deal with the Canto bite and all that mess. I can deal with that. But if you're gonna have those talks and discussions about, belief and theology, and why you quit or whatever, then the ends have to justify why. You have to talk about why to some extent, or you come out of it and get on about it. So even though in BVS, even though we don't find out what happened to Robin or why Batman went down this dark path, he comes out of that. He gets up out of it. He mans up, and he's like, "Okay, I got to be the Batman that they need me to be." You know what I'm saying? Luke doesn't do that in TLJ. Joker doesn't do there's he Joker and Folia Dude doesn't give me anything. There's nothing. It's just him in court defending himself and being a show off because he wants attention, and giving off these horrible, over silly impressions that, you know what I'm saying, that don't really, like, bro, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about here? What are you doing? Like, yeah, and it just, at by the end of it, it just leaves me with nothing. He said a bunch of nothing, and he didn't double down once the guards assaulted him. He didn't double down and go crazy on them. He quit. So I'm just like, that's literally like, no. It just it leaves me with nothing. I have no idea what to even rate the movie. So if that gives you any indication of how horrible it is, then I guess it's a 0. That film's a 0 out of a 10 for me. I can't give it anything. Like it gets nothing.
I'm so proud of you for finally being able to agree with me on a movie for once.
Folly Ado is gonna be the first movie that we ever probably agreed on.
I mean, normally we disagree on everything, but on this one, this movie sucked. I mean, I was fired up earlier, dude, but I'm gonna be honest. I officially have no hope in DC. None. I have no hope. I,
Yeah,
I just, I can't make myself have hope anymore for DC. And you know what's sad, Eric, is I knew this movie was gonna suck when I saw the first trailer. From the first trailer, I was like, this is not gonna be good.
that
And then,
first trailer was so good though.
no, it wasn't.
It was
No, it
great.
wasn't. Just
It
because it plays epic music doesn't make it a good trailer. It
it was
didn't.
a well crafted, good trailer. It's just the story just wasn't. Once we got the movie, it just wasn't there.
I mean,
There are a lot of movies with great trailers. The sequel trilogy has great, awesome trailers. Those movies, though, different story.
all three sequel movies were better than this. The Last Jedi was better than this. I
Okay,
said it.
I give you that. I give you that. I give
I
you that.
said it.
I
Justice League was
I
better
agree
than
with that.
this. Green Lantern was better than this. X Men Origins Wolverine was better than this.
Yeah,
Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance was better than this. Give me any superhero film. Shaquille O'Neal superhero films from the 80s and not or no, not from the 80s, 90s. Whenever he did his stupid, what was it, Steel? It was like one
Steel.
of the, yeah, it was so stupid. That was better than this. This is the worst Marvel DC movie ever made. Ever made. I am stunned that they let this movie out. I'm floored.
I'm
And
surprised DC. I'm surprised they went along with it.
now I think people are going to be concerned for Elseworld projects moving forward outside of perhaps maybe Reeves' universe if the Penguin keeps doing what it's doing.
Yeah, because not.
Which that'll have to be our next podcast talking about Penguin.
Yeah, because now I think this film just made it all the more harder for people to hold out hope that James Gunn is gonna save anything. And you can see the headlines here. Jokerophilia do debates behind Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets re-release. Uh, Jokerophilia do tumbles out of the box office top five. Collider says the box office total hits new heights, which is not saying much really. Uh, Joker fails to crack top five as Smile 2 dominates the box office. So, Folie Ado, let's see. After spending 200 million on production and estimated 100 million on marketing efforts, the film generated just 96.2 million worldwide. That's a lot of money lost, but
Holy crap.
there's never been a film that's lost 200 million. Not for DC. Even Suicide Squad, think about it what you may. That film still roped in a lot of money and still was somewhat a commercial success. But I've never heard of $200 million.
And you said there was a Smile 2 movie out?
Yeah, there is. I never even watched the first one. I wouldn't dare watch the first one. No way.
Oh, the second one's got good reviews too?
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
brother, man, I'm going to tell you about that first Smile movie, okay?
I'll
So,
never I'll never watch that.
well, let me just tell you this. Does Tessa like scary movies?
She watched it too. She says she'll never watch it again.
Well, I'm going to say this, okay? Yeah, about 2 years ago, I realized that I hadn't seen many Halloween movies, right? So I wanted to expand my horizon. So over the course of October, back when I was living at UM back in 2022, I think I probably watched about 50 or 60 horror movies in the course of October. I tried to watch two or three a day in my spare time just so
Yeah,
I could, see more scary movies.
yeah.
I think I watched every Stephen King movie, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream, The Grunge, every Conjuring movie, Drag Me to Hell, Trick or Treat. There were so many. I can't even name all of them.
I don't even know how you watch all that. Good lord.
None of them stuck with me more than Smile.
Yeah,
It is such a and it's not even a super jump scary movie like The Conjuring. Like after I watched The Conjuring the first time and I know when the jump scares are coming, it doesn't really scare you the second time. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But a film like Smile, mm-mm. You don't watch it a second time,
I
or
can't
I
watch
did.
that. I can't watch that kind of stuff. I can't
No,
do it.
well, if you watched it a second time, it would still freak you out
I
because
can't.
it's so psychological, bro. It's one of those films that's like it's not jump scary, it's just
Yeah,
disturbing, and it's like, oh my god, this is so horrible.
yeah. I can't.
It's a
Mm-mm.
it's a good movie, but it'll mess with you. I didn't sleep.
I'll be in church the very next day.
Well, it's nothing. Well, yeah, I mean there is demonic possession as the premise of the movie, but the monster only shows up at the end, and ask Tessa about it real quick if she's
No,
standing right there.
I already read the story synopsis of it. Yeah. Hell no. I don't even like cussing on the live. Hell no. No sir. No sir. Mm-mm. Cannot. What did Peter Dinklage say in Game of Thrones? I cannot do it.
No, he said I did not do it.
I did not do it. I'm switching it. I cannot do it. Mm-mm. I will be mm-mm. I watched the first Paranormal Activity and didn't sleep for 3 weeks. Nope. No sir.
Bro, I'll never forget going to watch Oppenheimer with you, and then they showed a trailer for that new Exorcist movie.
Oh hey. Mm-mm. They played too much with that, my boy. Mm-mm.
Them two girls in the church, the
No
body and the
sir.
blood.
You said, Eric, you can't yell like this and all in front of all these people and this. I said, boy, I don't give a
I said, say what I really said. I said in front of all these white people.
hey man, because I ain't even gonna say what I'm gonna say right now. I'm not gonna say what I want to
Now
say right
say
now.
it. It's true. We were in a white area.
Man, some white folk just don't know when to cut that stuff off. Is all I'm gonna say.
This
You
was
got
a good one, bro.
absolutely, brother. This was a great one. We will catch you guys later on the next podcast.
Peace.
And thank you guys for tuning in. This has been another edition of J House. Peace.